Clara had always thought life was predictable. She worked at a small bookstore in Boston, a place she loved because it felt safe, quiet, and full of possibilities that didn't overwhelm her. The smell of old pages and the soft hum of the heater during chilly mornings were comforting. At 24, she liked her routine, shelving books, helping customers, making recommendations, and reading a little herself when the store was slow. Life was calm, simple, and manageable. Until the autumn evening when everything changed. The wind rattled the door of the bookstore. Just as Clara was finishing up with a customer, the bell above the door jingled, a sound she had grown accustomed to. But this time the man who walked in caught her off guard. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a relaxed, confident gait. His hair had streaks of silver, and his eyes were a striking blue, sharp yet kind. He had the kind of presence that made the room feel warmer. Clara immediately noticed him, but tried to hide her surprise behind a polite smile. He wandered toward the poetry section, moving slowly as if every book held a secret he intended to uncover. Clara watched, curious. She had always thought poetry was serious business, a private conversation between the writer and the reader. Most customers just skimmed the shelves, but this man, Michael, as she would soon learn, handled the books with care. Flipping pages slowly, his gaze lingering on the words. "You seem to appreciate poetry," Clara said, stepping closer. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. She had no idea why she spoke to him, only that she wanted to. He looked up, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. "I do," he replied, his voice calm and smooth. Poetry reminds us of things we sometimes forget. The small moments, the feelings we can't put into plain words. It's grounding. Clara was surprised at how natural the conversation felt. Most strangers in bookstores barely made eye contact. Yet here was someone who not only noticed the books but seemed to understand their value. She found herself smiling. "I like that," she said. "I think it's easy to forget those moments. Life moves fast." Michael nodded, his eyes kind. "It does. And yet sometimes slowing down is the only way to notice what matters." He closed the book he had been reading and held it out slightly. "Would you recommend any?" Clara's heart skipped a beat. Normally, she might have given a quick suggestion, a bestseller or something popular. But for some reason, she wanted to recommend something meaningful, something that would let him see, she thought carefully. She picked a small book of modern poems, one she had loved herself. "This one," she said, "it's short but honest. Speaks about life in a way that's easy to relate to, yet it leaves room for interpretation." Michael accepted it, his fingers brushing hers briefly. The touch was fleeting, but it left a warmth she couldn't ignore. He opened the book and read a line aloud, soft and thoughtful. "We carry the past inside us, yet we walk forward as if it belongs only to someone else." That's powerful. Clara felt her chest tighten. How could someone understand words the way he did? She tried to keep her cool, reminding herself of the obvious truth. She was 24. He was clearly in his 40s. There was no reason for a connection to develop. Yet she couldn't deny the pull, the strange flutter in her stomach when he smiled. They spent the next hour talking. At first it was about books, authors, and poetry. But gradually the conversation shifted naturally to other topics. He told her about places he had visited, the lessons he had learned, the mistakes that had shaped him. She shared her dreams, her small hopes for the future, and the quiet fears she rarely admitted. With every word she felt drawn closer, not just to the man before her, but to the person he revealed himself to be. Time slipped by unnoticed. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the streets in shades of orange and gold. Clara looked at the clock and realized the store would close soon. A pang of disappointment hit her. She didn't want this conversation to end. She didn't want him to leave. But she also knew she had to be careful with her emotions. As Michael walked toward the door, he paused and turned back to her. "Would you like to meet for coffee sometime?" he asked, his tone gentle but steady. Clara froze for a moment, caught off guard. She wanted to say yes, wanted to ignore the numbers, the differences, the world's expectations. But her mind raced. Half his age. It was impossible, irrational even. Maybe, she said, smiling, unsure if it was hope or hesitation. That guided her words. Michael's smile was soft but knowing. I'll take that as a yes, he said lightly, leaving her with a warmth that lingered long after he left the store. The bell jingled again, and the store felt empty without him. Clara leaned against the counter, her heart pounding. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he listened, about the kindness in his eyes. Everything about him seemed larger than life, yet approachable, real. That night, Clara lay in bed replaying every moment, every word. She thought about how fast time had moved, how her feelings had shifted without warning. She tried to remind herself to be rational. She was young, he was older. The differences mattered. Yet, in her heart, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had begun. Over the next few days, Clara found herself scanning the streets whenever she stepped out. She imagined him walking toward the store, imagining the conversations that might unfold, the laughter that could echo in quiet corners. The thought made her smile and ache at the same time. She also began noticing little things about herself. Her steps felt lighter, her moods brighter. She found herself humming softly while arranging books, imagining him reading something she had recommended, picturing the way he would react. It was strange, new and terrifying all at once. One afternoon, Michael returned. He didn't rush in, didn't make a scene. He simply appeared at the doorway, carrying a small bouquet of flowers, and smiled. Clara felt her breath catch. He walked slowly toward her, his eyes meeting hers with the same warmth she remembered. For you, Kay said, handing her the flowers. No reason other than to brighten your day. Clara felt a blush rise to her cheeks. She accepted them, fumbling slightly, not used to such gestures. Thank you, she said, her voice soft. That's thoughtful. Michael laughed lightly, a sound that made her heart feel full. I find it hard to stay away once someone leaves an impression, he said. They spent the rest of the afternoon talking again, moving seamlessly from one topic to another. Clara was aware of the difference in their ages, of the unspoken questions that lingered in the air. She knew that pursuing anything beyond friendship could invite scrutiny, whispers, doubts. And yet there was an undeniable connection between them, a spark that refused to be ignored. When he finally left that evening, Clara felt a mixture of joy and apprehension. The bookstore felt quieter than usual, but her heart was louder then. Ever she realized that life could surprise her in ways she had never expected, she understood that this connection, feeling, was fragile. It existed in small gestures, in conversations, in shared laughter. But it was real, and it mattered. And as she closed the store that night, locking the door behind her, she felt a thrill of anticipation for what might come next. For the first time in a long while, Clara allowed herself to wonder, could age really matter when hearts understood each other so completely? Could something so unexpected feel so right? The questions lingered, and the answers were far from clear. But one thing was certain, her life had shifted in ways she couldn't have predicted. And she wasn't sure if she was ready to go back to the old predictable routine, because some surprises, she realized, were worth exploring, no matter how unexpected or complicated they might seem. And with that thought, Clara went to sleep that night with a quiet smile, wondering what the next encounter might bring. A little. Did she know Michael was already thinking the same thing? Planning to return, to talk, to connect, and to surprise her all over again. Clara couldn't stop thinking about Michael after that first meeting. Every day she found herself replaying the conversations. The way he had smiled, the way his eyes seemed to see through her, noticing everything she tried to hide as she went. About her work at the bookstore, but even among the rows of books, her mind wandered to him. There was a strange energy now, a sense that life had shifted in a subtle but profound way. A week later, Michael returned. This time he didn't wander the aisles slowly or appear hesitant. He walked straight toward her with a calm confidence, holding a small coffee cup. "I thought we could continue our conversation," he said softly, his blue eyes meeting hers. With that same warmth she couldn't forget. Clara felt her heart race. She wasn't sure why she agreed so quickly, but she found herself saying yes before she could think. They settled at a nearby cafe, a quiet place with large windows that let the afternoon sun in. Was the perfect spot to talk, laugh, and share moments that felt almost private. Even though the streets outside were busy with people. From the start, the conversation was effortless. Michael spoke about his travels, the books he had read, and the moments that had changed him. Clara listened, captivated. He spoke with a gentle honesty that made her feel like she was discovering someone rare. Someone who had lived fully but still retained a deep sensitivity. She found herself opening up, sharing her dreams of one day writing her own book. Her hopes for a life filled with meaning, the small fears she usually kept to herself. Michael listened intently, never interrupting, never judging. He asked questions that made her think deeper about herself, about her life, and about what truly mattered. Every word he spoke carried a weight that made her feel important, understood, and seen in a way she hadn't felt before. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting golden light across the cafe, Clara noticed how natural it felt to be with him. Age, which had once seemed like a barrier, now felt less important. The world outside might notice the difference, might question it, but here, in this quiet space, didn't matter. "You're different from anyone I've met," Clara admitted, a hint of wonder in her voice. "There's a calmness about you, a way you make people feel like they matter." Michael smiled a little wistfully. "I've had my share of lessons," he said. "Some people don't notice the small things, the quiet moments. I've learned that those are often the ones that shape us most." Clara felt a warmth spread through her chest. There was wisdom in his words, yes, but also kindness, and an unspoken invitation to trust him. She realized that, despite the age gap, he treated her as an equal. Someone whose thoughts and feelings mattered deeply. Their meetings became more frequent. Coffee dates turned into walks along the river, into quiet evenings spent in parks, talking. As the sun set behind the skyline, each encounter strengthened the connection between them. Michael's stories of life experience fascinated Clara, while her youthful energy and optimism reminded him of possibilities he sometimes forgot to see in himself. They complemented each other, balancing what the other lacked. Yet, despite the growing closeness, both were aware of the challenges. Clara knew that society would question their connection, that friends or family might not understand. Michael knew the same, and he was careful not to push too quickly. There was a delicate dance between them, one of respect, patience, and quiet longing. One crisp evening, they found themselves sitting on a park bench, the city lights twinkling in the distance. A gentle breeze stirred fallen leaves at their feet. Michael looked at Clara with a seriousness she hadn't seen before. "Clara," he said quietly, "I know people might talk. I know this is unusual, but I can't ignore what I feel. When I'm with you, I feel alive in ways I haven't felt for a long time." Clara's heart pounded. She had feared this moment, but now that it was here, she realized she felt the same. "I feel it too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked down for a moment, unsure of the courage to meet his eyes again. Michael reached out, gently taking her hand in his. There was no rush, no expectation, just a simple touch that carried reassurance, warmth, and understanding. Clara's hand felt smaller in his, yet the connection was undeniable. In that quiet moment, words were unnecessary. They both understood the significance of what they were feeling. As the weeks passed, Clara and Michael explored the city together, discovering small cafes, hidden bookshops, and quiet corners of museums. Every encounter revealed something new: Michael's sense of humor, Clara's creative mind, the way they could sit together in silence without feeling awkward. Their connection deepened, rooted in trust, respect, and a shared joy in each other's company. But life, as it often does, introduced uncertainty. One day, Clara returned from work to find an envelope waiting for her on her doorstep. The handwriting was unfamiliar, and a shiver ran down her spine as she opened it. Inside was a letter that carried news she hadn't anticipated, something that threatened to disrupt the fragile balance they had built. Clara spent hours reading and rereading the words, trying to make sense of the situation. It was complicated, challenging, and frightening. She felt torn between her desire to continue what she had started with Michael and the reality of the circumstances she now faced. When Michael next arrived, she couldn't hide the anxiety in her eyes. He noticed immediately, concern flickering across his face. "Clara, what's wrong?" he asked gently. She handed him the letter, watching as his expression shifted from curiosity to seriousness. He read it carefully, absorbing every word. After a long pause, he looked up at her. "This changes things." "But not how I feel," he said softly. "Life isn't always easy, and love rarely comes without challenges. But I want to face this with you, if you're willing." Tears pricked Clara's eyes. His words, his unwavering calm, gave her hope. She realized then that the connection they shared wasn't fragile at all. It was resilient, capable of surviving obstacles and growing stronger through them. She nodded, feeling a weight lift from her chest. "I want that too," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. From that moment, their bond became even more profound. They navigated the challenges together, learning to communicate openly and honestly. Clara admired Michael's patience and wisdom. He admired her courage and optimism. Together, they discovered that love wasn't about age, expectations, or societal norms. It was about understanding, trust, and the willingness to face life's surprises side by side. One evening, as they sat on a quiet rooftop overlooking the city, Michael turned to Clara. "You've surprised me more than I expected," he said, smiling. "Even though we are different in so many ways, you've changed how I see life." Clara laughed softly, leaning against him. "And you've surprised me too. I didn't think I could feel this way about someone older, but here we are." They watched the lights of the city shimmer beneath them, the world moving fast and unpredictable. Yet in that moment, they felt grounded. It wasn't about age or rules or what others might say. It was about them, together navigating life's uncertainties, discovering joy in small moments, and trusting in the connection they had found. The weeks turned into months, and their friendship blossomed into something deeper. It wasn't rushed or impulsive, was slow, careful, and intentional. Every touch, every glance, every shared laugh strengthened the bond they had built. Age became a number, insignificant compared to the understanding, respect, and affection that had grown between them. But just as Clara began to feel that life had settled into a beautiful rhythm, another challenge appeared, a misunderstanding that tested their trust and forced them to confront their feelings more openly than ever before. Clara worried, feared, and doubted herself, wondering if the connection they had built could survive the storm. Michael, however, remained steady. He didn't push, didn't demand. He listened, reassured, and reminded her why they were together. Slowly, Clara realized that true connection wasn't about avoiding difficulties. It was about facing them with someone who cared enough to stay. In the end, it wasn't the grand gestures or dramatic declarations that defined their relationship. Was the small, consistent acts of care, attention, and honesty. Michael's presence in her life brought a sense of calm and joy she hadn't expected, while Clara's energy and insight brought light into his world. Together, they created a space where love could grow, even if the world outside questioned it. By the time autumn returned, Clara and Michael were no longer just two people who had met by chance in a bookstore. They were a team navigating life's surprises, discovering new joys, and learning that love could be unexpected, complicated, and still beautiful. Age was just a number. Connection, understanding, and trust mattered far more. And as they walked through the crisp streets, hands brushing lightly, hearts beating in quiet synchrony, Clara realized that some surprise is unexpected, improbable, and entirely human were worth embracing no matter how daunting they might seem. Life had given her more than she could have imagined, and she was ready to face it with Michael by her side.